Hello and welcome to the Starting Your Farm series. This is session 2 of 3 on selecting your enterprises. My name is Bo. I'm the beginning farmer specialist here at MOFGA, and I've also been a farmer in Maine for 17 years. Today's workshop for pre-work, the suggested activity is the enterprise evaluation chart, which we'll be discussing later in today's session. This workshop will go through selecting enterprises and different ways to think about enterprises, as well as market research, a brief introduction to enterprise budgets, what they are, and how you might use them to evaluate enterprises, and then the overarching enterprise evaluation tool, which can help you look more holistically at different things you might do on your farm. So as we begin about how to select an enterprise and how we think about enterprise. I think enterprise sometimes sounds like a weird, very like markety word sometimes to me. What that actually means, like what an enterprise is, can be seen two ways. One is by the actual thing that we are selling. So for example, on my farm, we sell florals or like evergreen wreaths. Those would each be an enterprise. Or you can think about an enterprise by market channel. So we sell florals to a co-op as a wholesale account, or we sell florals to events as a value-added product. And we sell evergreen wreaths through our online web store. So that would be a market channel. So that's kind of two different ways to think about an enterprise, and we'll talk about how that might show up for enterprise budgeting, just making a financial plan around the thing that you're doing. So you guys did this next year farm plan, and each one of these next year farm plans, like questions that you're grappling with in that worksheet, correlates to this consideration about like what enterprises are you going to do on your farm? And maybe you already know. Maybe you're like, I'm going to be a diversified vegetable grower. I'm going to grow 35 different types of crops, and that's it. I'm not going to consider anything else. But oftentimes within that, there's still these questions about how you might sell those diversified vegetables, or if you're interested in, adding another, pastured poultry as part of your work. So, just to make a correlation between the next year farm plan and your enterprise selection, this question about what your farm produces, that could be the enterprises specifically about what crops and products you're doing. About who your customers are, that's another way of saying your market channels for your enterprises. Who's involved asks, what are your labor needs? And how do we financially plan for what labor is required for each of these enterprises? And how much money do you need to be happy? Think happy is a hard word, but like net income from your business, how much money do you need to sustain it and sustain yourself? Is asking this question about, it's connected to this question in enterprise evaluation. That's what are your farm income from your enterprises and what your expenses are from each of those. So as you look at your enterprise scope about all of the different things you might do on your farm and all of the different ways that you might sell them, that is going to lead to what your financial situation is for the whole business, as well as where your energy goes and how you're relating to your resources. So first, we're going to look at market channel as enterprises. I think that this is a really important thing to slow down and consider because it has a lot to do with our goals, our values, and who we are as people. So people might remember in the first session, we talked about like, what is your why? Why do you want to keep farming? What are certain reasons that you do this, and what are parts of your personality and how might they come out when you are engaged in your business? Marketing and how you sell your product has a lot to do with that. The two distinct ways that we consider is direct to consumer markets or wholesale. And your direct to consumer markets, these are your farmers markets that a lot of people in this room were excited about. This is the farm stand that's based at your farm. Community supported agriculture, where consumers are purchasing a share and maybe picking up every week from a market or from your farm, vegetables. You might be selling online direct to a person. Or you might have agritourism like you pick, where people are coming to your farm to harvest like berries or flowers or something like that. So direct to consumer, you are interacting with a lot of people, because instead of, selling to a wholesale account where that then restaurant or co-op goes out and sells to a bunch of individuals, you are the person selling to all these individuals. So this takes a lot of energy and talking to people. So these are some questions that you might want to consider if you are considering direct to consumer markets. Do you enjoy talking to people a lot, especially about what you do? So you might stand there all day at the farmer's market and give people recipes for a radish coleslaw. And are you excited about that? If you're interested in agritourism, do you want people at your farm? Are you comfortable having people at your farm? If you live there, how might that influence your comfort with people being at your farm a lot? If you have a farm stand also as well. How much time do you want to spend on customer service, selling, traveling, stocking, and setting up? So while you can usually command a higher price for direct to consumer markets because you're selling directly to that end consumer, there is a lot of time that goes into, setting up your farmer's market stand, unpacking, repacking, bringing it back to the farm, maybe traveling multiple hours if you're selling down in Portland at a farmer's market. So these are all considerations. What scale do you want your farm to be? What are you comfortable charging for your products? And do you want to grow everything A to Z or not? So usually if you're a direct consumer marketer, you might have more things that you're growing to attract customers at a farmer's market. If you had like that really robust stand and you have more than just two vegetables, people are going to be attracted to that stand, versus if you're wholesale and you can grow fewer things on your farm. These are some characteristics to consider about direct to consumer marketing. You're having a lot of one-on-one conversations with every customer, even if that sale is like a $5 sale. There is less invoicing, but you still have to do record keeping. So you're probably using something like Square or a point of sale system to have your transactions happening. You have less specialized packaging and labeling, particularly because if you're not interacting with that customer through wholesale, a lot of your labeling work has to do that conversation for you, versus if you're interacting with your consumer, or if you have a farm stand, you're able to put up that signage and really talk to them about your product. Yeah, this is some more just information about direct to consumer marketing. You usually get paid right at that sale. So this is a thing that, for example, if I sell to the Belfast Co-op, I'm going to get paid on net 30, as in they have a 30-day window to send me payment. Versus if I go to the farmer's market, I'm getting paid right then and there, and I have that cash in the bank. That your value system is also going to come up here. So consider, like, if you want to build relationship directly to your consumers and build relationship in community, those values tend to align more directly with direct to consumer marketing. It tends to be better for smaller scale operations because you get a retail price that is higher. And you have more control over your profit margin. When farmers get larger, growing 5 to 10 to 20 acres of vegetables, for example, they oftentimes shift to wholesale just to streamline things, but they get a lower price per pound of something. So just some considerations for this direct to consumer marketing. For wholesale, what wholesale means is that these are your restaurants, your grocery stores, your co-ops. You might be selling to other farms who have a farm store. You might be selling to a distributor like Peak Season or Crown of Maine. you're often growing a larger amount of fewer things to be able to offer these wholesale markets a regular, dependable supply of something. Um, you're oftentimes communicating with fewer people, so you have fewer interactions because you're not the person talking to that end consumer, but you're still talking to them pretty regularly. So you might be sending out a weekly availability list through an email or your website. And chefs sometimes have specific idiosyncrasies. So, like, are you okay with the specific requests about size that they might want broccoli heads? When you're selling to a CSA, there's going to be a lot less of that. So understanding that in wholesale markets, even though it's fewer people, there might be very specific requests that come of that. When you are selling to wholesale, you lose some level of product management. So when I sell to the co-op and I deliver there, I'm delivering there tomorrow and I'm delivering eucalyptus. I don't have control over how long that eucalyptus is on the floor of the co-op. So I kind of give up control about that product control. I can give them certainly recommendations of like, hey, please don't leave this out longer than a week and a half in that case. And I can brand it, I can put labeling on it, I can make sure the packaging looks okay. But this is a consideration when you shift to wholesale about like how much are you willing to let go of that product quality management because you're trusting your wholesale account to do that for you. Wholesale tends to be about 70%, like it's 30%, I think that's right, 30% lower than the retail price. So you're getting 70% of what you would make if you were selling at retail. So, if you were selling something retail for $10, it would wholesale probably around $7 or a little bit less. So that is a consideration about financial management of like, can you afford to lower that price, knowing that you're going to be focused more on growing? The simplified way about how I talk about wholesale and retail markets is if you love interacting with people and you love having a lot of interactions one-on-one, and that's where your energy likes to go, maybe you're more extroverted, retail markets might be a better fit for you. If you're wanting to focus more on growing your product, staying on the farm and scaling, then wholesale markets might be a better fit. But these are just some questions to help guide you in that decision-making point. I think I touched on this. Yeah, wholesale pricing can be 20 to 50% less than retail. You have a delayed cash flow. I mentioned that. You might have to get certain certifications, which can be out of reach for small farmers just starting out, but it's not something to totally write off. So you right now, you might start as a CSA farm. 10 years from now, you might scale to get GAP certified so you can sell to Hannafords. So just what I want to encourage people to do is like start somewhere of what feels like the most accessible to you for next year as your first year to sell, and know that these can evolve and change with your business as it grows. Okay, other considerations here are like, is there space for you in that market? Uh, are there a lot of other growers that are doing exactly what you want to do at the farmers market? So maybe look to a different market. How will you differentiate your product from the farms around you? And this is a really great consideration because Maine is a beautiful state to be a beginning farmer in. And also, there's incredible growers here. So, what are the pathways that you're going to take to differentiate yourself? And this is where I would encourage people to lean into, what you're really passionate about, maybe different things about your values, what you love growing, to differentiate yourself. And if marketing is not your skill set or your passion, and you still want to do farmers market. If you are maybe really introverted and you really love farmers markets, who can you hire to be on your team with you? And that is an important thing to know about all of this is like maybe you really want something to be a part of the farm, but you don't have that specific skill set. That's a really great moment to look around and say, who can be part of my team that can fill this role for me? Online and social media presence is beneficial, but it's not necessary. It definitely helps customers connect with you and build trust and relationship. And that is true even if you're selling majority wholesale. So if you go into, um, the co-op and you see Heiwa Tofu, which is an incredible local tofu company, you might be interested in learning more about that company and finding them on social. I'm a millennial. I'm always on my phone. I'm looking at Instagram. It's a big part of my business, but that is not for everybody. So if you don't like social, just thinking about how am I going to build trust and relationship with my consumer. So if your consumer is younger, maybe social, or sorry, if your consumer is older, maybe it is less important to have that social media presence. Okay, market research. You're at a really important phase right now where you are considering how am I going to sell this thing that I want to do. And now in October, when farmers markets have not completely paused or shifted to their winter offering, is a really great time to do that market research and go out to farmers markets in your area, talk to other people, consumers about what they're looking for. Um, this is maybe a specific example, but like I do wedding florals and evergreen offerings, and my consumer is basically my sister's friends. That is like kind of who buys my product is somebody that is closer to a city, that has a little spending cash, that likes beautiful handmade things. And I asked them today, I was like, hey, where do you guys look for your holiday decor? And they're like, West Elm and LL Bean. And so I was like, great, I'm going to go look on West Elm and LL Bean and see what their holiday offering is. So I can provide a local alternative. So doing that market research can help set you up for success to really understand your customer, who they are, what price point are they used to buying at, and where are they currently buying from. Successful marketing, especially on a local scale, really relies on building good relationships and finding these people that are going to buy your potential product, and focusing on that connection. So maybe you take somebody out for coffee and talk to them for 10 minutes and are like, hey, like, what do you like to see at the farmer's market? Who do you buy from and why? And asking those questions can help prepare you for making that plan for what your stand might look like. Okay, I'm gonna pause and see if there's any questions because I'm talking a lot. It would have been Nicholas. Just imagine that I am Nicholas Lindholm, which I'm not. But like, if anybody has any questions, please unmute, type in the chat about market channels. Okay, I'm gonna keep going then. We're going to start talking about enterprises by crop or product. So, product, I would say, is more used in like if you have a value added product, or like crop, like broccoli, carrots, broiler chickens. Enterprise budgeting is a tool that we use that helps predict the expenses associated with a crop or a product, as well as the income. And it helps us look on a piece of paper or a spreadsheet about like, okay, what is the labor it's going to take to produce this? What is the packaging that's required? How much am I going to sell it for? What are going to be my markets for it. So I'd love for people to type into the chat, how do I turn this chicken into this chicken? What do I need? If I want to, sorry if there's vegetarians here. If I wanted to turn this live Cornish cross broiler chicken into a roasted chicken, please type into the chat, what do I need? Feeds, processing, yeah, feed cost, my processing cost, infrastructure like a chicken house. I need time. I need labor to be able to go and do my chores every day, to feed them their broiler pellets, to move their fencing. Yeah, processing of butchering it. I would need somebody to buy it. So like what are my markets? Packaging for that, yeah, if I'm doing the slaughtering, I need to get the, maybe vacuum seal bags to be able to package it in. Um, I need to think about the infrastructure of water and maybe waterers, so like that tool. Distribution, market, great. Like how is it getting to market? Other things that weren't named, chicks and the shipping cost of chicks. I might have a mortality rate to think about. Commercial kitchen, if you're actually roasting it. Yeah, if I'm selling roasted chicken, like what's happening there? What's my commercial kitchen? Okay, great. So you guys just listed all examples to think about when I'm thinking about this enterprise of a broiler chicken. So what I want you to do as like homework for this, when you look at your enterprises that you are interested in doing on your farm, slow down and think about what is actually every single thing that I need to make this be a thing I sell. There's a lot of text. I'm just going to give people a heads up about it, and hopefully my voice is entertaining enough to talk you through it. This is a brief introduction for enterprise budgets. Enterprise budgets, I think people sometimes get overwhelmed by them, and I'm like, I'm supposed to make a budget for every single crop that I grow on my farm. And it's like, no, that is not what I'm asking you to do. And I don't think it's necessary when you are starting out. I think a lot of this work when you're first starting out can happen on the back of an envelope and say, just like how much money can I make from this? How much time do I think I'm going to give it? What are the costs of my seeds and my soil amendments? Um, my marketing costs I expect with it. It is a way for you to kind of answer these questions. And you can make it as simple or as complicated as are going to help you to answer that question. It is important to have as much information as possible, though. And it is a way to help us assess the profitability of a thing. So I go back to the first session that we had together of like, you know, what is your why? Maybe it isn't capitalism. Maybe it isn't, I'm going to make $1 million being a farmer. Like, I don't know. That's not why I'm farming, but, an enterprise budget helps me as a business owner tell me, am I making money at this thing? Can I potentially make money at doing this thing? Because we're turning our labor energy and our solar energy that we are getting from the sun and photosynthesis and animals potentially eating that grass into a thing that we are selling. So we need to know, if I sell this thing, am I actually going to be able to keep doing it longer than this year? Or is it going to cost me money and it's actually not profitable? So an enterprise budget is really helping us explore this question. Again, it can be crop specific or it can be like how you sell something. There's different opinions about if you should include labor or not. I love including labor because I love farmers to think about, if you got sick or hurt and you needed to hire somebody to do your job, can this enterprise pay for that? So whether you include labor or not, just be consistent about it for every single enterprise budget you do. It is really helpful to have as much information about your specific operation as possible. When you're first starting out, that information might feel unattainable. So that's where just research comes in. So talking to other growers and looking it up. Other reasons why enterprise budgets are helpful, now with climate change and like there no longer is a quote unquote normal year of farming, enterprise budgets allow us to make shifts mid-season to understand how it's going to affect our profitability. For example, I lost the majority of my dahlia crop this year. We grow thousands of dahlias, and I had to purchase in those stems. So I had to buy in from other growers those stems and budgeted about a $4,000 line item to be able to do that. So that shift was something that certainly affected my profitability on that crop, but it allowed me to keep going. So having an enterprise budget or a sense of it helps you make those resiliency decisions. A resource here, and again, this will be linked in the slides, and I'll share as a follow-up resource, is Johnny's Growers Library is incredible. So if you are making a crop plan for the first time and you want somebody to tell you when you can harvest that broccoli versus when you plant it, or how much yield to expect, the Growers Library is really helpful for that. So it will give you kind of like an estimated yield. And I encourage you to assume that you will get less than that estimated yield, as in be conservative about how much you might end up selling. Set yourself up for a good data collection and only tackle a few of these a year. So you're not going to sit down and do, again, like every single crop that you're growing an enterprise budget for it. But they do help you make decisions. Farmers, oftentimes, when I see people do an enterprise budget, it is to show them that they are losing money on something. So once they're keeping going and they're doing something on their farm, they might do an enterprise budget and realize, wow, I only have like a 5% profit margin on this. I actually don't think I want to keep going. Or an example from our farm is we make a few hundred wreaths every year that we ship, and we were deciding to get a very expensive wreath making machine to stop our bodies from hurting from doing it very physically. And the enterprise budget showed us that we were going to be able to pay off that machine in 2 years. And that machine works for like 50 years. So just like giving you feedback about decision making can be really helpful. This is again from Nicholas about 2 different ways to create an enterprise analysis. You could start with like your hopes of what you want to make, your revenue goals, and kind of working top down from there of like looking about how you're going to sell it, and then how much do I need to sell every week to meet that goal, and what are the crop plans that I need to have to back that up. Or there's this other way that's like focusing on bottom up approach with that, like what do we have right now. I think it was Oliver that maybe mentioned that it was easier to look at your next year farm plan, because it's like, okay, what is attainable right now, what can I do with this, and building up our enterprise plan from there. This is a spreadsheet screenshot of the enterprise budget that I work with farmers on, and it's a 3-year one, so you can kind of build out from there. Might look overwhelming right now. Essentially, the short version of this is you're saying, how much am I going to sell? Am I going to sell at retail? Am I going to sell at wholesale? And what are the expenses associated with that? This is Nicholas's contact information. He is also a grower. He has Blue Hill Berry Co. And has been doing that, I think, for like 25 years or so, doing wild blueberries down east. These are some of the resources that he manages as the business and marketing specialist. So there's the produce market report and the price reports. These help you track, okay, I want to sell certified organic garlic, or I want to sell lettuce by the head at a farmer's market. The price report allows you to see what other people around the state are selling that for. If you're a newer grower, prices are tricky to find out. So the price report kind of helps with that. I would also encourage you to like go to the co-op, go to the farmer's market and see what other people are selling things for. Nicholas also manages our current grant programs document. Um, Grants are very difficult in this current administration to come by, but I will say that like that is a document that we update as things are released. And he also manages our farmer programs newsletter. And this is his contact information. Okay, I'm gonna pause and see if there's any questions about enterprise budgets or market channels again. It was a lot to throw at people, and I think sometimes it's tricky to fully grasp until you work your way through one. But any questions? Yes, I will send you a template I'm going to send you a template for a whole financial spreadsheet of the business plan that MOFGA works on in Farm Beginnings. So it's all open source, and I'm happy for people to share and make copies of that. It includes a cash flow, a profit and loss, a balance sheet, and an enterprise budget and capital expense tabs. So the enterprise budgeting is two tabs in a larger suite of spreadsheets. Um, Cash flow is my perfect personal favorite financial tool. And that is like making a financial plan for the whole year. But yeah, that will be in the follow-ups. Okay. So, feel free to keep dropping questions in. Enterprise evaluation chart. I love this activity in a really geeky way because I love thinking about businesses. But yeah, those reports are very helpful. Thanks, Michelle, for pricing when just starting out the market price reports. The evaluation chart was something that you guys did for pre-work, and I still do this because I'm like an ideas guy, and I'm just like, we could do this thing, we could do this other thing, and then I like slow down and I look at this enterprise evaluation chart, and why I love it is it allows you to kind of compare apples to apples. Um, and it allows you to look at them side by side and kind of feel through what it feels like in your gut to evaluate something that you might do on your farm business. Um, we only have so much energy. We might have other things going on. You might have an off-farm job, you might have a family, and the reality is what we put our energy towards is important when we're starting our business. Um, I'm a big proponent of starting small and starting slow so you can continually check in with your goal setting and what and why you're doing it. So remember that in the first session, we talked about the 8 forms of capital, and the enterprise evaluation chart helps you look at how do your enterprises line up with all these different things that we have. Um, the enterprise evaluation chart, if people did it, they'll add up the score at the end, and you'll have like top scoring enterprises. The top scorers are what I would encourage you to think about doing a more expansive look at an enterprise budget for. So if, for example, pastured poultry came up as one of your top scoring enterprises, dive deeper into that and say, okay, great. How much is it going to cost me to do this? How much money can I make from it? And spending that time. Again, these are the reminders of the 8 forms of capital. And these are just like specifically highlighting some important things to think about in that enterprise evaluation chart is like Is it resilient in the face of climate change? This is a huge barrier for beginning farmers now in the stability of our markets and the stability of our weather. Um, how might it weather through that? Is it manageable startup costs? If you're starting from scratch and you don't have a lot of physical assets, can the income that you make in the year help you pay for those startups? Your farm. So as we begin to wrap up this work on enterprises, encourage you to slow down and consider if any of the work in the enterprise evaluation and looking at enterprise budgets shifted the way you were thinking about something you were going to do on your farm. Maybe when you're looking at that enterprise evaluation tool, you were surprised by one of the scorings, and that would be a place to dig in a little deeper and explore it a little bit more. For post-work, please do consider exploring your highest scoring enterprises in the enterprise evaluation tool. This could look like doing a bit of market research and seeing what else is out there right now in Maine for the thing you're wanting to focus on. Creating a rough calendar for if you were going to produce that item, what that would look like in the flow for a year, and revisiting your financial goals as outlined in the next year farm plan, which was post work from session number 1, and seeing will that enterprise and maybe a combination of enterprises lead to the financial income you're hoping for from your farm. And then next up is session number 3, where we're going to dive into production planning for your first year in production. Again, here's my contact information. I'm happy to take any questions over email as well as schedule a one-on-one time to connect more about your specific